Guys, cool weather and cold weather riding is upon us, at least here in the Midwest. Guys, my name is Rick and this is the HDVIBE channel. In today's video, spend a little bit of time with me today, and I'm actually going to show you how to install a set of Harley-Davidson heated grips on your touring motorcycle. And we'll get into it right after this. That's right, guys. In today's video, I'm going to show you step by step how to install Harley-Davidson heated grips on your Harley-Davidson touring motorcycle. These are the Empire Collection, which actually run the wires through the bars, so that's probably the most complicated part. But if you watch this step-by-step video, I'm going to save you 3 hours of shop labor at $150 or $450. So guys, since I'm installing this on a batwing fairing, the first thing we need to do is actually remove this outer fairing. So as you know, you've probably had your batwing fairing off before. Pretty simple. 3 screws or 3 bolts right up here holding the windshield, and then you have 2 bolts here on the side, one on the top, one on the bottom that holds this. So once you have those bolts out, you can disconnect your headlight and remove that front fairing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. At this point, before you pull out this last bolt, you just want to make sure you have a hold on your outer fairing, because now once I pull this out, there will be nothing holding it in place. I've got that last bolt out now, so now I can pull this front fairing out, and I will disconnect the headlight, and the outer fairing is free. So next we're going to remove these 2 acorn style nuts that are on this, holding this turn signal housing on here, and that's going to be a 1/2 inch. So we'll go ahead and remove those and repeat that on the other side. And then we're actually going to disconnect the turn signals so that they're out of the way. So now we need to remove the bolt on this side and the one on the opposite side so that we can take this piece off of here. And these are 9/16. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen those up, one on either side, and we'll move on to the next step. So our next step is we need to loosen these bolts here. These are again 9/16. And what this will allow, once we remove these on both sides, will allow this inner fairing to rock forward just a little bit. Our next step is we need to remove this bolt and the same bolt on the opposite side with a 5/32 Allen so that we can get this housing here that goes around the ignition loose. Go ahead and do that now. As you can see, pretty loose. So I'll go ahead and take that one out, and then I will repeat on the opposite side. So the next step, we actually have to remove the ignition switch. How to do that? It's pretty simple. Put your key in. You're going to turn this to the lock position. And then you're going to push down gently on your key and turn it to the left. And there's a little button underneath, and then gently slide this out, and don't lose the spring that's in there. And then set that aside just like that so that you don't mess up your ignition. Alright guys, now that I've got this front fairing off, I actually had to dig in here and find my connection. So for the heated grips you need power. So your power is actually right over here. So if you're looking at the fairing, it's on your right side. If you're looking out from the bike, it's on your left. And it was actually buried kind of back up under here in the fairing, just kind of hanging loose. And it has a dummy plug in it. And then over here on this side, you'll find another one that has no dummy plug in it, but actually has a black and white wire in it. That is actually your crossover that's coming from your throttle side grip. And what we'll do is we'll use both of those connections once I actually get the cabling pulled through the handlebars, and I'll show you that just a little bit later, but I wanted to show you that while I got the fairing off, because this one especially was a little bit hard to find, and it's a powered accessory port specifically for your heated grips. So now that we got the fairing loose and we've identified our connecting points inside the fairing, we're actually ready to start working on these stock grips and taking those off. So the first step to get this clutch side grip off is we actually need to loosen all this housing up. But in order to do that, to get this off and get this grip off, we actually need to remove this trip meter button. So in order to do that, sometimes people, it's a little tricky, but it's not that difficult at all. All you do is just kind of push it up, and it'll click like that, and then just gently slide it out, and that's how easy it is to remove that. Now that we've got that off, I've got to remove the bolts here, and then these two. So in typical Harley flat fashion, this is a T25, and these are a T27. Okay, now I've got those completely loose and removed, so now that will allow me to take this plate off. So now that we've got this housing off with the T25s, we'll go ahead and loosen these T27s that are holding the clutch on here. So we'll go ahead and remove these bolts all the way. Just kind of hold this so that it doesn't fall and smash your tank. And as you can see, I've got my tank fully covered, as well as the front fender, just in case something would fall down. I've got that out and loose enough, and I think I'm going to try to leave that one in there if I can. Okay, so I've got that loose enough. I'm actually going to leave that on there so that my clutch lever is not flopping around. So I've got that completely off. So now what we need to do is actually remove this grip. Let me see if I can get it started. When I did this on the Road Glide, the glue actually just kind of let loose, but this one's pretty darn tight. So we may actually have to cut this with the razor blade and begin to peel that off and then clean up all that glue. All right, so I have gone ahead and just kind of sliced this down the middle here with a super sharp knife. And I think I'm going to be able to, at this point, get this to release and pull off. So whatever glue they've used on these 23 model grips is a lot stronger than what I had on my 21, because I was actually just able to twist that grip and break that glue bond. So I'm actually going to try to continue to peel this off. So I got the clutch side grip off, but man, Harley Davidson, whoever was doing the glue in that day when this bike was built, did their job. So now I'm just kind of scraping off this excess rubber from that stock grip. I'll get that all cleaned up and then make sure that it's pretty clean before we actually start to put on the new grips here. All right, so now we're actually ready to begin to put this clutch side grip on. This is actually the one that controls the heat levels, and it goes all the way 1 to 6. I don't think I've ever had mine turned up past the 3. And then obviously you have your connectors that the wiring connectors that we're gonna actually feed through the bars. One thing you need to remember is you do need to pull out this gray plug. I don't believe it's actually in the instructions, but it actually says remove this before installing on the gray plug. So you just take your needle nose, and actually I can just work that off with my hand and pull that out. So again, you do need to remove that before you begin the installation process. All right, so I rock that fairing all the way up as far as I can, and just be careful so that thing doesn't slide down and bash onto your fender. That's the last thing you want to do. But then you'll feel up here in the handlebars, there's actually an opening, and this side actually is going to the left, to the clutch side is fairly open. So I'm going to see if I can feed this trimmer line up in here, which is pretty thick. So I was able to feed that through. So as you can see, I've got on either side. Okay, so now a little trick I'm going to show you. To get this fed through, obviously you need to have these running in towards the middle of the bike as you kind of tape these on. But you want to offset these plugs a little bit so that you don't have too much width kind of trying to go through the bars. And when you do that, you also want to use some pretty strong tape. I actually use like a duct tape or a gaffer's tape so that these don't actually pull through, or this doesn't pull off of these cables as you're kind of pulling them through. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up, and then I'll show you how I've got that taped together to be able to pull this through the bars. All right, so I'm getting this almost all the way through. The problem is these plugs are actually going past the hole. So what I'm actually going to do is actually use some electrical tape, because this is holding plenty tight, is use some electrical tape to hold these down so that they kind of feed and pull out with the actual trimmer wire. So let me put some of that electrical tape on there and then see if we have better success. All right, now that we've got that electrical tape to the trimmer wire, now I'm going to try and feed this through again and see if we can't get this thing to pull through. Almost there. I see it coming through. So after a little bit of pulling and tugging, I've got this cabling pulled through. Then we'll continue to pull this through and then push this grip to about the position we think it's going to go to. And these, you really have to push to get them in there. We've got my cables pulled through just fine. And I believe I've got it. So because these do have a logo on them, you want to kind of set them at a place, but they'll also be somewhat defined by the notch that's on these. So I think that's about where it's going to go. The Harley Davidson is going to be facing sort of almost directly back to you. And that's typically about where your on-off switch is. So that looks like it's pretty well lined up. Okay, so I've got all the tape off there. Again, so this female side is actually going to go down underneath, under the fairing here. And that has the red and black wire, so that I believe that is your power. And then this one actually has your black and white wiring in here, you can see. That one will actually feed over here, and that's actually your crossover from this grip over to here. All right, so I got those fed through from the top. So this is the one coming from the grip, and then this is the one that was there already. So that, again, that's your crossover. So you got a female that's coming down that was originally in the bike, and this is the male connector that came from the grip that I just fed through. So we'll go ahead and connect that. So once you get it lined up, you can't really mess it up. They just kind of slide in. Then over here, this is my power. So this is the one that came from the grip that I just pulled through. Again, that's a black and red wire. And then here's the one that was already in the bike, my power. So you got to take that dummy plug out. That's the dummy plug. I just pulled that out. Now we'll take the connector from the grip and press it into that one. And you heard the snap. So now that is all connected. So now I'm finishing up getting the clutch side grip all put back together. So again, I just kind of pushed that all the way in and then reconnected this housing just in the reverse of what I took it off. All right, so now we're ready to start on this throttle side grip, and we just want to loosen these. First, this is the T25s. You got one on the top and one on the bottom. And when you're doing this, you need to be extra careful on this side because this is hydraulic, your brake, so you don't want to get any air in that line. So you need to be super careful with that. So we're going to go ahead and take these completely out so that we can get this front housing off of here just like we did on the clutch side. Okay, we got that housing, the front plate off of there, so that reveals this throttle side switch pack. So now we got to loosen these. And again, I think I'm going to try to just loosen this so I can get enough to just pull this throttle off of here. Again, these are the T27s. I'm going to see if I can just get this loose enough to release this so that I can pull that grip off. And again, this is your throttle by wire, so there's going to be, obviously this is your throttle, so there's no glue on that. So as you can see, that just comes right off. We're really ready now to begin to prepare this for the heated grip. So right here on the end of this grip, you'll see there's this black plug. I'm actually going to take my screwdriver and just gently pry that out. And as you can see, that released pretty simply. So now that I pulled this plug out, that reveals the plug-in actually for the heated grip. All right, so we have the heated grip. And the one thing we need to do is we need to actually pop this end cap off. You might not be able to see in the camera, but there's some indents there. So we need to pop that off because that will reveal the actual plug that will go into the grip here on the throttle by wire to essentially make this heat. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that off. So I was able just to pop this off with my thumb and just pressing it out. And there you can see there's the prongs inside of there that will actually plug into this. So now I've gone ahead and slid the grip on all the way. I've lightly tightened the switch pack and the brake lever onto there so that the grip is tight. So now I need to actually connect the heating element here. So I need to get it into those prongs. As I showed you earlier, this green wire needs to kind of go down and to the left, and the orange wire up and to the right to get this lined up right. So this is a little tricky, so I'm actually going to do this off camera. We'll use a needle nose, and I'll just kind of gently push that in there and then make sure that I get it lined up and then push it into place. All right, so I've got everything adjusted. So you can see my throttle snapping back nice. I can roll it forward. I can snap it back. So now I'm actually ready to go ahead and put this cap back on. You just align it the way it was before and just gently press it into place. And there you have it. So now the throttle side grip is ready. So now that we got both grips on, they should be ready to go. But before I do that, I've got to put the fairing, the outer fairing back on. I've got to connect everything here, the ignition switch and all those sort of things. So I'm not going to bore you with that. It's essentially just the reverse of the process that we did taking it apart. So I'm going to put it back together. Then we'll come back and check out these grips and make sure they're working. So that's it, guys. I got the heated grips on. I got the fairing all back on. I got everything buttoned up, and I tested the grips and they heated up just fine. No problem whatsoever. So if you guys are interested in learning how to put heated grips on your Road Glide or your shark nose fairing, I do have a video on that as well, which I'll link at the very end or down in the description. Also, this will probably take you a couple of hours, but if you follow these step-by-step instructions, you will save yourself probably at least 3 hours of shop labor at your Harley-Davidson dealership at $150. So just by watching this HDVIBE video, you can save yourself $450, all for the price of free. So guys, if you like this type of content and you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also consider sharing this with your friends so that like-minded individuals or someone who might be looking to put heated grips on their motorcycle, want to save some money, share it with those people. Hit that subscribe button right down there if you haven't done so already. And if you do subscribe for the first time, please leave a comment down below saying I subscribe so I can personally reach out and thank you for supporting the channel. And when you do subscribe, also consider checking out the over 200 videos I have on tips, tricks, rides, reviews, and installs on these Harley-Davidson Tourer motorcycles, which I feature the 2023 Street Glide ST, which we worked on today, a 2021 Road Glide Special, and a 2021 Street Glide CVO. And with that, guys, I want to leave you with this thought. Life is short, get out and ride the bike. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye now.